Alan Jones from Australia, in fact, has won at this location. Not exactly this track, but Jonesy won here for Williams in the FW07 and won in a shadow years ago in 1977. He had great success at this venue.
Gridding up now for a start.
They're trying to rejoin this Grand Prix in a hurry.
Well, this has been a pretty exciting Grand Prix season so far already, and I tell you, I'm more excited about this start than I've been for a very, very long time. Last few cars just coming into position. Who's going to win the race up to turn one? Possibly the most crucial race of the day. Who knows? In a few seconds, we'll find out. Turn up the volume on your televisions and enjoy the sound. Oh, we've got an aborted start. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Didn't see why. No one I can see raising that. Yes, they're on the right-hand side of your screens. It's one of the Toyotas, I believe, with an arm being waved, and everybody just rolled forward a couple of feet and then stopped again, and that is what you call an anti-climax.
Yes, they were triggered by Raikkonen. Raikkonen had a reaction to a change of the light scenario, but it wasn't the red lights going off to commence the Grand Prix. It was the 3 flashing orange for the aborted start, and he triggered the right-hand side of the grid, all just knee-jerking down and reacting to follow him down. Michael, calm as ever, didn't move an inch.
So we restart the procedure now, and obviously we check to see why the start was aborted. We do not have that information yet, but we're hoping to get it from race control shortly. In the meantime, they go back into the start procedure.
It's a 5-minute procedure now, where they basically, obviously you can see the mechanics are allowed back onto the racetrack. They put the blankets back on the tyres. It is a Toyota at the back of the field there that was waving his hand. That's a system that came in 12, 15 years ago, where if you can't get away and you can let everybody else know early enough, yellow flags wave from, there's a marshal alongside each line of the grid, and they'll wave a yellow flag, and it's up to the starter, Charlie Whiting, to decide whether it's too late or not. And obviously had plenty of warning on that one and aborted, because many years ago we had a death on the start line and then lots and lots of incidents where cars just smash into the back of one another. And of course that's to get away from that situation where at all possible. But it does mean the Toyota will have to go to the back of the grid for the restart. We'll be back shortly.
We're back at the A1-Ring. Commentators still taking a quick break. We'll just keep things going after this aborted start, warm-up lap. What happens to Webber and Alonso, who are starting from pit lane, Neil? Do they just sit there, or...?
I believe they stay there, Bill. I've just been looking over the rules here in this jumbo folder of paperwork, but I think they'll actually, in fact, stay in position. Cristiano Di Marta was the driver that triggered that problem. You could see at the start there was a waved yellow flag, and Cristiano had his arms frantically waving in his position. He was a fair way down the grid. A little bit unusual for them to abort, given that there was only one car in strife and it was towards the back. And just looking a moment ago at some of the pictures from the pit lane as we looked there at Jean Todt from Ferrari, it looked like there were a few people up and down pit lane. Norbert Hogg there from Mercedes-Benz that were unhappy about that decision, a couple of them doing a bit of finger pointing, and there's plenty of emotion in this business.
Well, Raikkonen would have wished that they'd aborted the start when Pitsonia couldn't get off the line, although Pitsonia, of course, wasn't waving his arm last round, but still would have been nice for him.
Well, hopefully now we'll get a clean start as everybody comes back around.
Tends to travel with the team as well, doesn't go use his own jet to go to and from races. Charlie Whiting there, the blue sleeve on your left-hand side of your screen. You saw Bernie Eccleston just going to have a quick word with him a moment ago as well. He is the race director, and he also the official starter for Formula One. So he was the man who made the decision just a second ago to abort that start.
Yes, while the start is automated and there's a random amount of time when the red lights are going to go out, so they're not anticipated on a regular basis, at some point that procedure's got to be commenced, and Charlie physically commences the start procedure. Then it goes fully automatic.
Talk about pressure. 20 highly charged Grand Prix drivers all wanting to get going, all wanting to get racing, as we all are. Hopefully this time we will. 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights. We've got another wave, yellow flag at the back of the grid. We're broughting the start again, I'm afraid. It's a Minardi. It's going to be Jos Verstappen, I think, at the back of the grid, and this is becoming a bit of a pantomime.
Come on, boys, get your act together. All you got to do is let go of a button. Surely you can manage that between you. And then we've got Minardi's on the back of the grid anyway. Therefore, if he is on the back of the grid, I'm rather surprised they didn't let the Grand Prix go anyway.
Well, absolutely, but I'm wondering if, in fact, we're saying Minardi, but I wonder if, in fact, it was D'Amato again in the Toyota. We've seen that car this weekend have some weird electronic moments. Certainly the gear change on Saturday morning was doing a lot of things by itself. And I'm just wondering whether there's a problem with D'Amato's car. Yeah, it is D'Amato again, you see. So there's something wrong with that car, and perhaps the race director might choose to ask him to start from the pit lane so that the rest of them could get going this afternoon.
Yeah, tough call there for Charlie Whiting, in that obviously the Toyota was on the back of the grid, so nobody's going to run into it, apart from the medical car maybe. But it's such a short lap here, James. That's the problem. 1 minute and 9 seconds later, they're going to be back round here again. So it's a question whether they could have cleared him out of the way fast enough.
Let's just talk about the embarrassment factor, because there is going to be one. Twice now, D'Amato has caused their start to be aborted. Is he the one who should be embarrassed, or is it Toyota, or should it be both?
Yeah, I mean, I'm being hard on them, saying let go of the button. Clearly, it's a technical problem. I mean, the only time I've known that to be really embarrassing was when De Cesaris forgot to put his earplugs in, so switched his car off and aborted the start, which is another reason why we've got this procedure this afternoon. Ted's down in the pits.
Well, obviously Ted wasn't ready for that just then, but we will come back to them as soon as possible. There's Ross Brawn. There's the man, Bernie Eccleston. He was in what looked to be an animated discussion with Eddie Jordan a little earlier as well, so I'm not sure what that's all about. But you said, Neil, some people were a little disaffected by this decision, given that we have had some problems on the start line before.
These cars have got tiny little clutches on them, and you know, the whole drive line on the car is fragile. That's Bernie talking to Charlie Whiting, the race director, and as Martin pointed out a moment ago, also the starter. And after he automates that start, he then goes back up into race control. The cars are not fundamentally designed to do a lot of starts. That's the bottom line here, Bill. And you know, this now happening twice with Chris's car raises the spectre of a similar problem happening to other cars. I mean, we don't actually know what the problem is, obviously. But
what about Pizzoni? I mean, his launch control's been plaguing him all year, and he's right up the grid this week.
And incidentally, David Pitchforth, the managing director of Jaguar Racing, came out in the last week and said that after extensive investigation, they have determined that at the last event in Spain, it was not the driver's fault. It was a software glitch with his car. I don't think that was the case in the previous one, but certainly it was in this particular instance. Now, they're going to send Chris into the sin bin and put him into the pit lane. Bernie's got a bit to say here.
That, yeah.
FOM gets engaged in FIA politics here, imagine that. So this is a very bizarre situation, and that is a replay of D'Amato waving to the corresponding start line marshal and Norbert Hogg's reaction. That's German for oh gosh. And Charlie Whiting aborting the start. Chris Dyer there jumping out of the garage at Ferrari. Jean Todt looking at the monitor in disbelief, and a whole bunch of people go back through a procedure which is well drilled.
I think it's a good point Martin makes, though, about the shortness of the lap. You know, just over a minute to clear the track. I think that's a very good comment.
Well, it's a very important comment, because you can't have people on a racetrack with Formula One cars going by. You've seen the speed of these cars, Bill. They are astonishing. It would just be far too dangerous. And now they're actually taking out a steering wheel to this car, and that suggests, you can see the guy there with the trolley, he's got a steering wheel in his right hand, because so much of the electronic gizmotron equipment, how's that for a word, actually requires to be plugged into the steering column. Often when they do have software electrical problems with these cars, the first thing they actually do is change the steering wheel, because there's a whole lot of connectors on there that enable you to go through all that functionality on the steering wheel. Someone's got a weather station on pit lane there. It's obviously recording wind direction and wind speed.
Now, this might give us a shot of Webber and Alonso too, if they keep zooming in, because they've been quite obviously. There they are, parked at the front of pit lane. Webber in front of Alonso there, you'll notice.
No, I think, in fact, it may have been the other way around, because Fernando was first out in the queue. They turned that car around pretty quickly. There was a bit of a kerfuffle earlier in the day at Renault, because there was some drama that may have meant that they've used their T car here. Now we're away again on another observation lap. This is a test, isn't it, Bill? All this for everybody involved. Now we've got a Jordan slow and lethargic to wander off.
Yeah, there's the Renault, and it is in front of Webber's car.
And so frustrating for Mark this weekend. You know, you talk about great form and all the hard work that goes into getting a car into a competitive situation, and you know, Webber's been astonishingly strong all weekend. So frustrating for him last night in qualifying to end up so far back down the grid. Now we've got a problem with a Sauber. Shortly we will be able to go back to ITV when they resume their commentary, and it's Heinz-Harald Frentzen who is now jumping into the spare car, and you can tell by how much frantic work is going on there that it was clearly set for Nick Heidfeld. So pedals need adjusting, suspension settings perhaps need changing, and he too will start from pit lane, making it 3 cars starting from pit lane in this 20-car field.
Well, he was already heavy, we understand, Heinz-Harald, so...
He's had a pretty ordinary weekend. He hasn't been happy with the balance of that car at all, whereas his teammate has gone pretty well. In fact, for Heinz-Harald, it's been a bit weird in that in the warm-up session on Saturday, he actually had a puncture. It was so close to the start of qualifying that they were only able to change just that front tyre, and then they ended up with quite a balance problem where the car was on 3 scrub tyres and 1 new tyre, and it was just turning like a truck, and he was very unsatisfied. So I don't think he'll be too frustrated about starting from the pit lane if he's able to actually end up in a car that he can adjust more to his liking. This is his teammate. And I think we can now resume commentary with ITV and Martin and James.
Matter is coming round with the rest of the field at the moment. He's not coming into the pit lane. He is going to try and start this Grand Prix from the back. Good news, I suppose, for Webber and Alonso. They've already made up 2 places on the grid, with the Frentzen pulling into the pits. Well, 1 place at least. Anyway, let's refocus on the start. That is, after all, what we're here for. Gigantic heat haze. Just everybody lining up. More cars on the left than there are on the right. Let's get going this time, guys. Come on. 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights, no way flags. Let's go, let's go. Yeah, let's go! Raikkonen does not get a good start. Montoya does, and you can see that Heidfeld is attacking Raikkonen, and Barrichello, it's exactly what he needed. He's getting around the outside. Is he? No, he's not. Michael Schumacher uses all the track available. Jarno Trulli has been very aggressive at the start, and the pit lane boys start as well. Alonso and Webber are in the race now, and this is a corner where a lot of things happen normally at the start. They're all bunched 3 abreast as they come up the hill. Trulli's right in the middle of it. Heidfeld too. Looks like everyone's got through cleanly.
Yes, and Raikkonen had a very poor start, had to move around the racetrack a lot to hold everybody back that he could, and it looked as if Barrichello would clear him too. So Raikkonen the big loser then, Montoya the winner, and all hell let loose in the middle of the pack.
Very bold move there by Pitsonia. He made up at least 2 places there. In the green Jaguar, you can see he's right behind Nick Heidfeld, up into 7th place for Antonio Pitsonia, who started 9th on the grid. Nice move. There's Jos Verstappen. Well, he had a gearbox problem yesterday during the qualifying session. I wonder whether, because he kept the same gearbox, I wonder whether that's the problem here, but he looks like he's in a bit of a dicey place.
Yes, he's somewhere up against the pit wall, isn't he? And let's hope they can clear that car. If not, they'll cover it under double-waved yellows as they come past the pits. There won't be any overtaking, I don't think, down the pit straight anyway. And it does, yeah, there's the double-waved yellows. It is the pit straight finish really where Verstappen is, but everybody passes calmly.
Michael Schumacher leads, Montoya 2nd, Raikkonen 3rd, Barrichello 4th, 5th Heidfeld, 6th now Pitsonia in the Jaguar, 7th Trulli, 8th Button, 9th Ralf Schumacher. No moves there into turn 2 on the 2nd lap. 10th is Fisichella, 11th Jacques Villeneuve, 12th now is David Coulthard, up from 14th on the grid. The big winners, well, Coulthard up 2 places, Pitsonia has made up 2 places as well, and both Fisichella and Panis lost 2 spots on the grid.
Horrendous amount of understeer there on board with Ralf Schumacher, and Frentzen then, often it's a 10-minute job to get those pedals out. I always manage to find a way of compromising the T-car with my teammate, because you know, sooner or later it's going to play into your hands. Safety car has been deployed, I would imagine, because of Verstappen's car not being able to be cleared out of the way.
Yeah, let me tell you exactly where that car is. It's parked right up at the top against the pit wall, just before the apex of the first corner. There you can see it now on the left-hand side of your screens. And obviously we had waved yellow flags anyway, but I think the reason, Martin, is because there's no obvious way of getting that car out of there, is it?
No, because the pit wall, the barrier on the right, goes a long way around the first corner and into the first straight. We know that from when they exit the pit. So big drama there then, and unfortunately it is just a bad position. There ought to be some way of letting that car escape, or a crane there. If not, the Toyota of Panis pitting. We heard that a Williams may pit, but we haven't seen any sign of that, and now they're able to push Verstappen's car, I would imagine, around the first corner and back into the end of the pit lane.
Yes, it was for Ralf Schumacher that the pit stop was being prepared, but it appears that he's changed his mind. He's gone through this time, but the pit crew are still out there. They're still talking about it, because obviously one of the considerations now with this safety car, it shouldn't be out for too long, because this car will not take an awful long time to move. And one of the considerations now is, do we switch over to a one-stop strategy? Ted, perhaps you can tell us something about this.
Well, that was exactly what was going through Sam Michael's mind. We'll hear from him a bit later. The Williams pit crew have now stood down. Williams boy Ralf Schumacher at his fore, because down there he might as well come in, convert to a one-stop. They've stood down now. He's going to continue as he was.
Yes, Ralf Schumacher in 9th place at the moment.
Yes, and De Matter did get away from the back of the grid, therefore clearly changing that steering wheel. Look at that, I've never seen such an uneven grid. De Matter doing well not to run into the back of Verstappen at the back of the grid itself, but many cars on the grid right and very few on the grid left, but somehow or other they managed to make it through turn 1, and Raikkonen was working overtime there to make sure to keep Barrichello behind him.
You can see Verstappen there in the middle of your screens, not getting very far at all. Obviously the drive off the line damaging something in the drivetrain.
This is looking back from pole position. You can see it's pretty much even Stevens between Michael Schumacher and Montoya behind him. Here then is Panis on board the Toyota, and he makes it up alongside Ralf Schumacher into turn 1, but subsequently he has pitted in this safety car period, and Louise is with Verstappen.
Jos, what can you tell us about the problem there? What happened?
This race is the first time we used the launch control, and that's what we did. And when I pressed the button, the car went into anti-stall. What you have to do then is grab the clutch and leave again. But then I lost what I say now. I lost the throttle, and so that was it.
Thanks, Jos.
Yes, safety car is in this lap. Anti-stall means obviously when they're spinning, there's enough data coming in through the various channels on the car for the car to recognize it's spinning, and it pulls in the clutch to try to keep the engine alive when the driver makes a mistake out on the racetrack. And quite clearly one system triggered another there. Verstappen ended up with no drive whatsoever and was not able to re-engage it by the end of the pit straight. Verstappen out of the Grand Prix then. Frentzen has not started. 18 runners at this time.
Yep, and the safety car is coming in at the end of this lap. Michael Schumacher, you can see there, bunching the field up. And is he going for it? No, a bit too early yet. Safety car still on the track. This is only the double left-handers here, the Niki Lauda curve and the Power Horse curve. So a little bit early for him to drop the hammer. But he's got to calculate now the gap where that safety car is going to come into the pit lane. He wants to get maximum drive out of these 2 very tricky final corners, and he will be the one that sets the pace. We've had quite a few restarts already this season, certainly had plenty in the Brazilian Grand Prix, enough safety cars in that race to last us a whole season. Montoya there, just ready to go. He's got his finger on the trigger, hasn't he? An itchy finger it is too. Now Michael has dropped the throttle. Montoya has got a good run at him, though, down to the final corner. He's not allowed to pass, of course, until they cross the start-finish line. Then he can try and make a move. But has he got enough drive out of the final corner? It's not bad. He's right up behind the world champion. We're green flag racing here at Zellbeck. Is Montoya going to try and do him into turn one? No, he's not. Anybody else having a go into the first corner? No. So Michael Schumacher leads. Montoya second. Raikkonen third. Fourth Barrichello. Fifth Heidfeld. Sixth Bitsonia. Seventh Trulli. Eighth Button. Ninth Ralf Schumacher. And 10th Fisichella.
Yes, the drivers that have raced a lot in America always get it together on these restart situations. They're so used to the yellow flag scenario, but Montoya didn't have enough speed to do anything about Michael Schumacher.
So a little bit of jostling going on further back. I can see David Coulthard trying to fight his way through the field. He's down in 12th place at the moment. Here you can see at the top of your screens, there he was, just going around the outside of one of the Jordans. He's really pushing hard, and we can see that Alonso, who started from the pit lane, is up now into 15th place, and Webber is 16th. So in a way, that safety car really played into the hands of those two drivers. We expect them to be on a quite different strategy from the front runners, who have not come in to put extra fuel in their cars, and I just wonder whether the Renault of Alonso and the Jaguar of Mark Webber are fueled to go quite a long way into this Grand Prix, and that safety car will have really helped them.
Yes, there'll be a lot of furious recalculation going on in all the pits now to try to maximise the strategy of what's left of this Grand Prix, which is an awful big chunk of it, but of course they've used far less fuel so far than they would normally have done. And Michael Schumacher comfortably leading him by 1.4 seconds over Montoya at the end of lap 1. And Raikkonen under pressure already from the fast-starting Barrichello. Heidfeld 5th, Pitsonia, Trulli, Button, Ralf Schumacher, Fisichella's 10th. Villeneuve, Furman did stay ahead of Coulthard. Furman 12, Coulthard 13th at the moment. Then it's DeMatter, Alonso, Webber, Panis, and Wilson brings up the rear, the 18th of the 18 runners.
This is lap 6 of 71, and you can see that Rubens Barrichello in the Ferrari is very keen to get past that McLaren of Kimi Raikkonen. This is what Martin was talking about at the beginning of the programme, how the Michelin tyres tend to have a drop-off phase in which the performance goes away and then they come along stronger. A little bit like we saw 2 weeks ago in Barcelona. It was a very extreme example of it there, where the Ferrari was quicker in the early part of the stint, and then on its Bridgestone tyres, and then the Michelin tyres on the Renault were coming in later. But we do expect to see something a little bit similar to that. At the moment, you can see Michael Schumacher just clearing off a little bit from Juan Montoya in second place. He's on the Michelin tyres, as is Raikkonen. So this is the difficult phase of the race for Raikkonen and Montoya, and then soon will come the sweet spot when the tyres are working and they can attack as well. This is why Barrichello is so keen to pass at the moment.
Well, the paddock thinks that Michael is running a 3-stopper, so he needs to be scampering away. He was a full 8/10 faster than anybody else, and this then is a replay of the restart at the end of the safety car lap. Michael playing games, and look, Montoya saying, get on with it, go, don't back the pack up like that. And Michael saying, okay, I will then, and Montoya fast to react to that, but didn't have enough straight line speed to do anything with it coming out of the last turn up to turn 1. And therefore we see Panis on the side of the road in the Toyota. Panis yet again then failing to finish the Grand Prix. He's getting pretty despondent, is Mr. Panis, and really the frustration is clear when you hear him speaking.
And who can blame him? That's his 5th retirement in 6 Grand Prix already this season. Somehow or other, the DeMatter Toyota, his problems at the start notwithstanding, the DeMatter Toyota this year has been more reliable than Panis's car. And once again, Panis pretty despondent, as you can see. It doesn't look like driver error, it just looks like the thing had to be parked. Michael Schumacher leads on lap 8. 2.8 seconds now, the gap to Montoya in second place as Panis walks away from his steaming car. Waved yellow flags, you can see up there in that corner. Montoya second, then 2.8 seconds behind Michael Schumacher. Raikkonen then a further 1.5 seconds behind, with Barrichello all over the back of him. Heidfeld 5th, 6th Pisonia, 7th Trulli, 8th Button, 9th Ralf Schumacher, and 10th Fisichella. The guys coming up through the field. Coulthard's not had a great run. He's struggling to get past Ralph Furman at the moment. We saw him jostling with the Jordan driver a couple of laps ago, and he's not got past him yet. So Coulthard's still 13th, Alonso 15th, trying to get past Mata, and Webber is right behind Alonso in 16th in the Jaguar. So at the moment, the fast guys not making their way through, which would indicate, Martin, that they are carrying more fuel.
Well, because when they made their mistakes in qualifying, they were already committed to their race fuel, James. But you're right, they paid a big penalty. Villeneuve, Coulthard, Alonso, Webber, they're 11th, 13th, 15th and 16th. They've not lucked out in any first few lap incidents anyway. And there you can see it for yourself. That wave yellow is into turn 2. They're still clearing Panis's car.
And look at this, Michael Schumacher has just set his fastest first sector of the race in the area of turn 2. So that's going to be interesting, because you're supposed to acknowledge and back off, aren't you, when there's a waved yellow flag. So it'll be interesting to see how that one is judged by the stewards.
Yes, the sector point is in the braking zone, or just before the braking zone of turn 2, so he could argue that he hadn't arrived at the scene yet, but for sure he was honking into the braking zone of that corner where the wave yellow flags are. Be more a question of looking at his middle sector, which is also very fast. Schumacher's pushing hard and unquestionably has not responded to those wave yellows.
Yep, so he's now 3.3 seconds ahead of Montoya, trying to make the most of this period when his tyres are working well and the Michelins are struggling. You can see now that Raikkonen seems a bit stronger in the confrontation with Barrichello, holding him behind him. Barrichello not really able to get close enough to him. One of the secrets, Martin, of this new Ferrari is its straight line speed, isn't it? It really is a very slippery creature in a straight line, picking up 2 or 3 miles an hour over the McLaren Mercedes and as much as 7 miles an hour over the Renaults.
Yes, the McLaren's no sluggard either, but you've got to be so close in that last corner, and therefore you're going to have an aerodynamic deficit as the dirty air of the car in front spills over your aerodynamic surfaces. Barrichello there making a tweak on the steering wheel. I would imagine it'll be some form of electronic map he's changing. I don't think it's the brake balance he changes from the steering wheel like that. The green light's flashing. I'd say the engine's at optimum revs, and those revs are not the same for each gear. The optimum revs vary depending on the gear ratio, but of course it's not Barrichello that does anything about the upshifts. Interestingly, he was the one who pulled 2 downshifts there into the Berger curve, so he's using a combination of manual, fully automatic and semi-automatic shifting. Is Barrichello on his lap?
We heard from before, who spoke to Louise. Don't know if he's reading something or just having a condor moment there, just a moment of reflection on what a mess it was at the start for his team. Cristiano de Mata causing 2 restarts by stalling his car. He's down in 14th place. Teammate Panis has already retired as Michael Schumacher sets a new fastest lap of the race, very consistently now in the mid 1:09 range, and nobody else is able to lap at that kind of pace at the moment. So Schumacher really putting the hammer down and stretching his advantage. Montoya and Raikkonen certainly going into this Grand Prix. McLaren felt that Raikkonen could race Michael Schumacher. At the moment, it doesn't look that way. He's too busy trying to fight off his teammate Rubens Barrichello at the moment.
Mark Webber is 16th out of 17, and just to compound that, he's under investigation for some kind of incident, presumably speeding in the pit lane or whatever. He did start from the pit lane, so we'll have to wait and see what that's all about.
Well, the Michelin tyres of Montoya, 10-second stop-and-go penalty then for Mark Webber for breach of Parc Fermé regulations. So they've obviously done some work on that car before the formation lap, which is the moment of the actual start of the race, which is the moment at which the Parc Fermé conditions under the new rules are lifted. So they've obviously done something on the car that they shouldn't have done.
Yes, well,
rain!
Rain, and Webber did pass through the pits 3 times. Maybe they did something to the car on those pass-throughs, and of course Parc Fermé does not finish until the pack leave the grid, effectively. So Jaguar have fallen foul of the regulations then, and a stop-go for Webber. Where is that rain? It tends to be coming from up the top of the circuit, over the hill there, up sort of turn 2 in the back straight. Schumacher's still lapping stunningly fast, though. He just did a 1.92, so it's not too wet where he's just been in that Ferrari. If it was, he didn't notice. And Heidfeld pits then from 5th place.
The first man to come in. Is he going to? What tyres is he going to put on? Well, at the moment they've got more slicks ready for him. This is obviously when he was scheduled to stop. We said this car was running light with fuel, and this rain could have come at just the wrong moment for Nick Heidfeld. It's not wet enough to put wet tyres on. He has to go with slicks, and he has to hope against hope that it doesn't rain anymore. Certainly not raining where we are, Martin.
It certainly is not, James. And one thing that also has been very clear through this year is that in a slightly damp track scenario, the Michelins have always been much stronger than the Bridgestones. The Bridgestones do not like the sort of a semi-dry racetrack when they're in their groove slick form. Of course, Bridgestone, we know, have the far superior intermediate tyre. Michael's blitzing sectors here on the computer, faster sectors, so the rain then looked bad on that camera shot, didn't it? But it's really obviously just burning straight off the racetrack. Track temperature still 22 degrees centigrade, so at the moment it's having no impact on the level of grip these drivers are experiencing.
On board with Jarno Trulli, 7th place. Just in front of us then, Pitsonia, it looked like, diving into the pit lane to make a stop. Indeed it was, from 6th place. That promotes us up to 6th place then with this car of Jarno Trulli. I wonder why Pitsonia is coming in. Presumably it's a scheduled stop. This is lap 15, which would indicate he's pretty light on fuel. Now it's raining in the pit lane, and in comes one of the Jordans as well. It's Ralph Furman, which is good news for Coulthard. He's been released. What tyres are going on here? Again, dry weather tyres.
It's the only choice at the moment, James, and you just wouldn't dream. You're better to make another stop than be on the wrong tyres. If you're on the wrong tyres, you lose 5-6 seconds a lap, and you're only 5 laps into that, and you may as well have stopped, and you're still on the wrong tyres. So yeah, at all times, be on the right tyres. We understand Ralf Schumacher's due in for Williams anytime soon, and there then is what is often referred to as the oil flag. What it actually means is something slippery on the track, something either debris, gravel, oil, or in this case, water.
Yep, coming from the heavens, water. Michael Schumacher, as we've seen him do once or twice in the past, running wide there, slipping on the rain, and there'll be a lot of thinking going on now. How long's this rain going to last? Do we need to switch tyres? How long can we stay out on the slicks? The lap times, Schumacher's 1.5 seconds slower on that last lap than he was the lap before, and already on his first sector of this next new lap, he's 2 seconds slower than last time. This could be great news for Ralf Schumacher, who's coming in at the moment. Will he put the wets on? Ted?
No, James, he will not. He's only changing the rear tyres. They're keeping the old scrub front Michelins on. Ralph has actually come over the radio and said, yes, there is rain, but it's okay. It is burning off. It's okay. He can handle it. There he goes, 9.2.
The Michelins do like these weather conditions in slick form or groove slick form. That's Fisichella then leaving the pit lane. He stopped at the end of lap 15, and Webber in the pits for his stop and go. They're not allowed to touch the car. If he wants tyres or fuel, he's got to come in again. Barrichello tippy-toeing then through the Lauda curve. This is Michael Schumacher, your race leader, in the Rindt curve, and he's carrying on because he doesn't need fuel, and he knows it's not wet enough for the intermediate, so just make the best of a bad job. The yellow light was flashing at the top of the hill. That's a replay of Trulli. He recovers and gets back onto the racetrack. I don't know why the yellow lights were still flashing up at turn 1, because that happened some time ago, and it's a replay you're seeing here. Nonetheless, Schumacher leads now by 7.1 seconds and was 4 seconds slower than Montoya on that previous lap. This is what I was telling you about. The Mitchies still can find some bite here.
Let me just clarify the situation for all those of you who enjoyed the extraordinary Brazilian Grand Prix with us last month here on ITV1. And you'll recall that there was some talk about whether they should actually have started that race in the wet conditions, given that there was only one type of wet tyre available, and both companies had brought something, as Martin referred to, an intermediate tyre, very shallow groove. Since then, the FIA have stepped in and said, no, you don't. We don't want a repeat of that, where we can't race because your tyres aren't suitable, and they've made both companies bring an extreme wet tyre as well now. So should the rain really chuck it down here, don't worry, because they can come in and put that full wet on, although hardly anyone's done any running on it, but that's a side issue. Oh, look at this. This is Coulthard attacking the back of Trulli. That's the fight for 7th place, and it looks to me as though Coulthard is more confident with his car, Martin, at the moment.
Yeah, Coulthard is lapping a lot faster than Trulli. Trulli's already been off the racetrack. Montoya, we hear from the F1 ITV pit crews, telling the Williams pit that it stopped raining up at turn 2, so maybe the worst is over of this little moment. Schumacher's lead down to 3.8 seconds. He lost another 3 seconds last time around. And isn't it great when it rains? It always throws a double six somewhere.
It does. It's thrown a double six in the favour of Juan Montoya. He's only 3 seconds behind Michael Schumacher now as one of the cars dives into the pit lane. It's Trulli. He didn't look very comfortable, frankly, out there, did he? So he's coming in for who knows what tyres. But anyway, Montoya 3 seconds now behind Michael Schumacher. And as you say, the rain does seem to have burned off a little bit now. Montoya's last lap was 5 seconds faster than the lap before. It's amazing what a difference a little bit of rain makes.
Yeah, but I'll say again, there's only one tyre to put on. They're heavily scrubbed front tyres too. They're hoping they've already burned off that nasty 6 to 10 lap zone. And Ferrari mechanic there looking and checking for some inters for Barrichello, just having them ready.
Yes, WW meaning wet, wet. The tyres of Rubens Barrichello, that's thoroughness, isn't it? Just preparing a tyre you may not need, but certainly a few drops coming from the ceiling gives you an indication it's as well to be prepared. Schumacher eking out again his lead. Montoya got it down to 3.1 seconds, and Schumacher just trying to find a little bit, but once again, these slightly slippery conditions, as the lap times return to something more normal. They're about 3 seconds slower than they were before it started raining, but it's something more normal. There you can see Montoya now. He can visually get a fix on the back of the Ferrari. And this is lap 19, so we're getting close to the point at which that Ferrari, if we're right, is going to have to make its pit stop. I thought he had 19 laps worth of fuel as D'Amata comes into the pits, so we'll find out soon. Yeah,
but I think you can add probably 2 laps to that, James, for the formation laps. It's only a 69-lap race now. That we had 2 laps under formation, 2 laps under the safety car. They probably saved 2 laps of fuel, therefore, in those 4 laps. And the Toyota coming down rather hard at the front, but no problem. Dust everywhere. And that then is just before the last corner, somebody off the track. Let's see what the gap is now. And we think it was Pizzoni who was off the track. Schumacher now leads by 3.4 seconds. He was a fraction faster than Montoya that time around.
There's Umberto Agnelli, the old fellow on the pit wall, the brother of Gianni Agnelli, after whom this Ferrari is named. 2003 GA for Gianni Agnelli. The Agnelli family, of course, that own the Fiat enterprise. A big, big family in Italy, and akin to royalty, really. And Umberto is Gianni's brother. As you can see, Pizzoni making that little mistake that we saw from the onboard camera of Michael Schumacher's car.
And he's so lucky they've tarmacked that area. We've seen so many cars bounce through there, ripping the under tray and the front wing off. Pizzonia then just easily able to rejoin the Grand Prix. Still 17 runners then. Pizzonia at the moment the last of them.
OK, let's give you a rundown on lap 20 as we're entering the pit stop window, we believe, for the front runners here at the A1-Ring. Michael Schumacher leading by 3.4 seconds from Montoya. 4.5 seconds further down the road is Raikkonen. 2.8 seconds behind him, Barrichello. Then 9 seconds behind him is Button in 5th place. 6th is Villeneuve. 7th is Coulthard as the race leader comes through to lap Pizzonia again. 8th Alonso. What a move from him. From the back of the grid up to 8th for Alonso as Montoya comes in the pits.
He was second. Williams team looking very smart in their white overalls. Everything appeared to be working well. Rear tyres only, as ever. It's the fueling that takes the longest amount of time. 13 litres per second only allowed through that nozzle. Montoya away nicely.
And Barrichello clearly released. You can see ahead of, behind Raikkonen. He's now doing very low 1:09 and he's got right back onto the tail of Kimi Raikkonen. Obviously lost some time just in the preceding laps. So the fastest man on the racetrack at the moment is Rubens Barrichello. This is what I was talking about earlier. This phase of the race as Coulthard comes into the pits is where the strategy of Rubens Barrichello to run possibly a bit more fuel could start to pay off. He's only 10 seconds behind the race leader, Barrichello. Keep an eye on him. Ferrari are ready, we believe, for Michael Schumacher.
So it's a scheduled stop for Coulthard then by the looks of it, and it does appear, James, that the paddock was wrong. Michael Schumacher is on the same strategy as Kimi Räikkönen and the Williams team. Schumacher passing, then he's not pitted yet, and Barrichello in the pits then from 4th place it was. Rubens Barrichello, there's another set of well-scrubbed Bridgestones ready to go on that Ferrari.
Well, that's very interesting. As you say, the paddock was wrong. They believed that Rubens was on a different strategy, one that involved him running a little bit longer. So that puts Michael's qualifying time, and the fuel hose isn't attached. That's going to cost Rubens a lot of time. Look at this, already 13 seconds, but it certainly puts Michael Schumacher's qualifying performance yesterday in some perspective. If Barrichello was lighter, that really does show how quick Schumacher was yesterday.
It's always Rubens, isn't it, somehow, but 20 seconds then, and how many fuel rigs? Yeah, they had both fuel rigs out. They had to use the spare one, and as we have often seen in the past, that doesn't always mean they get the right amount of fuel on board the car, so that's put Barrichello back heavily.
It could impact on Michael Schumacher's race as well. They do need to use the same fuel rigs for him as they did for Barrichello, and they've got to hope that that thing is working properly. Looks like Michael's got at least another lap of fuel in his car.
Yes, I think normally you bring your cars in one lap after the other, consecutive laps, but here it's such a short lap. I would imagine Ferrari waiting 2 laps to bring Michael in, so he had more fuel on board than Rubens, despite what maybe even Rubens had been saying. And will they bring Michael in this time around? I think they will, where Schumacher is having a difficult in-lap. He's trying to lap car. He is lapping cars. He just lapped Webber, but unfortunately for him, he's losing time on the in-lap. But fortunately for him, he had such a great lead, 9.4 seconds anyway. Providing his fuel rig's fine, Schumacher will surely rejoin in the lead as Villeneuve pits.
From 5th place in the BAR Honda. It's been a strong weekend for them. Buttons up to 3rd at the moment in a podium position as things stand, and they really do have to translate their performance this weekend into some points. They've singularly failed to do it. Villeneuve shaking his head. Not quite sure what that's all about. Oh, get away, he says. Oh, it's about the steering wheel. Do you want a new steering wheel? Answer, no, I don't. I tell you what, though, Martin, we haven't seen a frame of this guy all day, but Fernando Alonso somehow has got from the back of the grid, has left Webber down in 14th, left Coulthard down in 12th, and he's up in 7th place now, Alonso, as the race leader pits.
2 fuel hoses ready for this Ferrari, just in case. Ted.
Let's keep a very close eye on those fuel hoses. Yeah, it goes on. This time it's fine. Michael Schumacher, he gets all the luck, doesn't he? This time, oh no, they are trying. No,
it's on fire.
It's difficult. They can't. It's exactly the same problem.
It's on fire, Ted. The car's on fire. We haven't seen this for years, since the big fire of the Benetton of Jos Verstappen and Michael Schumacher. What's he going to do?
Send it out. No problem. There's only a bit on the surface. That's fine. But it cost him 12 seconds.
There's fuel coming out of the back of the car, we're led to believe. I hope the team is on the radio to Michael Schumacher to let him know, because we do not want this thing to become an inferno. We've got to keep a very close eye on this Ferrari.
But it could also have been the water from the fire extinguisher you saw coming, just trailing off the back end. So there's been so many problems with these fuel rigs. Williams have been complaining bitterly about them, and they are not supplied or manufactured by the teams. It is a standard piece of equipment that is distributed to the Grand Prix teams, and some of them are very unhappy about it.
Yeah, it's a company called Intertechnique that make them for the teams. They've made them for quite a few years now. You can see the mess. Let's have another look at what happened there. I think you're probably right, Martin, about it being extinguisher fluid that's pouring off the back of Schumacher's car rather than fuel. Yes, you can see the conflagration there. And it must have been a frightening moment for the refueler, mustn't it? Look, staring down at flames, knowing you're pumping 12 litres of fuel per second into the flames.
Yeah, but it's unusual that it caught fire. Where did it get the spark from to catch fire? I mean, the exhausts are running red hot underneath that engine cover.
Whoa.
And of course, as we know, they top exit the exhaust now, but they're still probably best part of a metre away. Michael's sitting there remarkably calmly. I think I might have been tempted to jump out of that, but he didn't. And as we expected, they send him, but did they get enough fuel in it? Because they're trying to take the fuel hose off immediately. That must have been static, James, that set fire to that.
It must have been, and I don't know how they could have put enough fuel in, to be honest, Martin. It didn't look like it was connected for long enough. So how much fuel has Michael Schumacher got in his car? Let's just... Wow! Well, I tell you, Schumacher's a lot calmer than me, and I'm standing the other side of the pit lane with a grandstand between us as well. How phlegmatic can you be? Ferrari just checking the rigs. Let's just quickly check on the race order now, because Montoya, there he is, race leader, not won a Grand Prix since September 2001. Is this going to be his day? Due to a bit of misfortune for Michael Schumacher. He's 3 seconds ahead of Kimi Raikkonen in second place. Michael Schumacher is third, 4 seconds behind Montoya. Fourth Button, fifth Barrichello, sixth Alonso. What a race he's having. Seventh Ralf Schumacher, eighth Heidfeld, and ninth Justin Wilson.
And Justin Wilson has stopped, but I think you'll find when the computer sorts itself out, because he's just stopped, James, he'll slip back from that ninth. But having a solid race is Justin Wilson. But you're right to keep an eye on Alonso, because we know he started from the pit lane in the spare car, presumably extremely well fueled. He hasn't stopped yet, but Alonso has come into play. And Michael Schumacher then is all over the back of Kimi Raikkonen. How much fuel went in that Ferrari? Did it catch fire after it finished refueling or not, and can they get any more fuel in it when it inevitably has to come in one more time this afternoon?
Well, that's clearly what the mechanics are working on at the moment. They know that he's got to come in at least once more. Certainly in the normal scheme of things, if a full load of fuel that he wanted went into that car, then he has to stop once more in this Grand Prix. If, however, they're a bit short of fuel, then he may well have to stop in the near future, and then possibly again later in the race. Although I think at this stage, if he were to come in once more, they probably would fuel him to the finish. But there's a problem down there. I'm looking out the corner of my eye down at the Ferrari garage. There you can see Sam Michael's on the pit wall.
Sam, what's happening down there? Is Montoya saying anything to you?
He's going okay at the moment. He obviously came in for a good pit stop then. He got a good advantage of Ferrari's problems. But the tyres are starting to work well. The chassis is being very kind to the tyres in the first stint. But therefore we're going along, so it'll be interesting. Last stint will be very close at the end.
And what about Ralph? He's down in seventh. Can it work out for him? Anything you can do for him back there?
We've done a similar strategy with Ralph as well. It's just up to him to bring it now. You can see he's making little gains by gains. It depends. We don't know what Renault are doing at the moment. Obviously the task for one is to have a good 4 or 5 seconds over Raikkonen by his first pit stop. Do
you think they got enough fuel in that Ferrari before it caught fire?
Michael only got 5 seconds of fuel in, so he's coming in on lap 41. And Raikkonen will be similar to us, so Michael's in trouble because he can't run long.
Thank you, Sam. Thanks for talking to us. Talk to you later.
That's Sam Michael, Chief Operations Engineer at the Williams team, part of our Williams weekend here. And what invaluable access, what invaluable information. Michael Schumacher only took 5 seconds worth of fuel on board. It means he has to stop again on lap 41. He's a wounded animal here this afternoon at the A1-Ring. He is down in third place. Montoya leads it from Raikkonen. Third, Michael Schumacher. Fourth Button. Fifth, Barrichello. Sixth, Alonso. Don't go away, because this is a really great Austrian Grand Prix.
Two reasons. Alonso hasn't stopped yet for fuel, so he passed cars while they were stopping. And very crucially, there was a safety car procedure, which Alonso, starting from the pit lane, it negated his disadvantage and brought him up to the back of the pack. So many cars having problems. But you're right, Coulthard doesn't have the pace. He's in a pack, but for whatever reason, David Coulthard not happy with the grip that's underneath him, and I suspect nor is Villeneuve. They're running 10th and 11th, the pair of them, and Webber really threatening to overtake them.
Well, you don't need me to tell you that it's pretty close quarters with those four there, and clearly the Jordan of Fisichella holding up Villeneuve and Coulthard. But nevertheless, Coulthard's lap times are 2 seconds a lap slower than his teammate Kimi Raikkonen, who is running in free air in second place. How fast could David Coulthard be today if he was in free air? We will not know, and we probably never know. But looking once again at Michael Schumacher, just a wry roll of the head. I'll be off then, thank you very much. And that's calmness, isn't it? Just quick wipe of the visor. Big question now is, will this thing work when Barrichello and Michael Schumacher want to come in for their refueling stops?
Montoya leads by 3.8 seconds then from this man Raikkonen, who has the Ferrari of Michael Schumacher very clearly in his mirrors. Button some 11 seconds down the road. He has stopped and he is fourth and going well, and obviously it worked out for him. He's ahead of Barrichello. Alonso not yet stopped, still steaming along in P6.
30 of an extremely eventful so far Austrian Grand Prix. We've had to have 2 aborted starts after the Toyota of Cristiano de Mata failed to get off the line at either of the formation laps. That is a piece of equipment which has played a big role this afternoon. That's the refueling hose of the Ferrari. Michael Schumacher came in for a pit stop on lap 21 and his car caught fire in the pit stop. He was able to get out again though, and we believe he's only got 5 seconds worth of fuel gone into that car, which means he's a bit out of sequence. His strategy has been very badly compromised as a result of that stop. And so Montoya is leading from Raikkonen second. Michael Schumacher is 5 seconds behind Montoya. Jenson Button's having a strong afternoon in 4th. Barrichello 5th, and Fernando Alonso, who started from the pit lane and is on a one-stop strategy this afternoon, in 6th. As we take another look at the flames licking the edges of that fuel hose.
And look at that panel there that they put in to make sure the exhaust gases don't get anywhere near the fuel hose, but something ignited. Clearly there was a leak of vapor, and that's very, as you said at the time, James, it's a long time since we've seen flames anywhere near a Formula 1 car.
Well, 94, Jos Verstappen in the German Grand Prix, of course, the worst one, and then Eddie Irvine in the Jordan, I think later that year, had another little blaze, but that's nearly 10 years ago since we've seen flames in the pit lane. It's something no one wants to see in Formula 1. Ted is down in the pits.
James, it does appear that the leak was on the nozzle itself, and a small amount of fuel escaped from the nozzle, actually ignited on the hot metal coupling on the car. But bear in mind, guys, that was actually the spare rig, and they're going to have to continue with the rig that failed on Rubens's car for their next stops.
Well, we can see them working on that now. It's almost as complicated a piece of engineering work as fixing the race car, changing an engine, these mechanics.
Yes, and that's because the fuel has to go in the same apparatus that the vented air comes out of. Clearly, you can't dump 60 or 70 kilos of fuel into a tank without the air going somewhere, and that's it all passes through the same piece of equipment with dry brakes and all sorts of clever pieces of kit to stop fuel or vapor leaking, and clearly it doesn't always work. Webber was 12th, was chasing quite hard Coulthard, but obviously due for his second stop. He is definitely 3-stopping this afternoon.
Well, in fact, I think his first one was a stop and go, Martin, as Coulthard is side by side then with the Jordan of Fisichella. That's the battle for 10th, 11th place, you see, with Jacques Villeneuve just in front. So Mark Webber has made a stop, and you can see at the front there's a battle here between Barrichello and Raikkonen, and Barrichello comes out of him, and Montoya's blown his engine. I don't believe it. What rotten luck for him and for BMW Williams. Well, there's been a lot of pressure applied by BMW recently on Williams for not being up to snuff in the chassis department. I think there'll be some fingers wagged by Williams in BMW for this failure here this afternoon. But there's a tremendous scrap at the front between Raikkonen and Barrichello.
No, Schumacher, it's Michael Schumacher. He now leads the Grand Prix. While we were watching Montoya lunge his engine, unfortunately for Raikkonen, he was outbraked into turn 2. Schumacher getting the run round the outside and took the Grand Prix lead. And we know he's a bit light on fuel because they set fire to half of it, but Schumacher retakes the lead of the Grand Prix. Montoya clearly out. Raikkonen maintains second. Jenson Button will go up into 3rd place. He's 17 seconds behind Raikkonen last time around. So then it'll be Barrichello, Alonso, Ralf Schumacher will move up to 6th. Heidfeld, Villeneuve and Coulthard. And Fisichella will then be 10th. Montoya says, I'm not walking back. I'll bring it back. There'll be thousands of pieces inside there. And the engineers hate that because they can't then necessarily find out what broke first. Ted.
Montoya retires right in front of me. We're privileged to be in the Williams garage for this race. Thanks very much to them, by the way. He gets out of the car. The fire hoses are ready. The hydrants are ready. Obviously, after that engine blow, anything could happen. Montoya steps out of the car, dejected. He's out.
Sad. And I think he's due a win. Has to be said. Montoya is due a win, and he has been driving well here this weekend. So Ted said, just as his car caught fire, he did a bit of a Murray Walker moment on Michael Schumacher, said he always gets the luck, and the car went up in flames, but he's back in the lead of the Grand Prix, James.
I did a bit of a Murray as well, thinking it was Barrichello, not Michael Schumacher, that was attacking Raikkonen. Barrichello down in 4th place at the moment. Schumacher leading Raikkonen, Button 3rd, Barrichello 4th, Louise.
Yeah, you know, it's been like that a few times. It's not the first time, and you know, you learn to deal with it, and you know, it shows Williams got a lot of potential. We are going in the right track. I want to thank everybody at BMW and Williams. They've done a fantastic job. a great car, and we used it the best we could until it broke.
You'd had a bit of luck, but do you think you could have kept at the front till the end of this race? Is this a win that you've lost?
Yeah, the front tire is starting to come back and my pace starting to go quicker, and they were still not clean completely, the front tires, so there was quite a lot of potential there.
Thanks, Pablo.
Yes, and he's being the diplomat there. I think there's a lot of friction between BMW and Williams this week, and that is Stefano Domenicali, the team manager of Ferrari, no doubt spotting, that's a replay, spotting that Montoya was out of the Grand Prix, and all at the same time, Michael Schumacher was busy passing Raikkonen into turn 2.
So many breathless moments here at the A1-Ring. Possibly the last time we're going to have an Austrian Grand Prix, and they're certainly intent on giving us one to remember, aren't they? This is lap 34 of 71. Michael Schumacher 2.5 seconds clear of Kimi Raikkonen. He made an extraordinary recovery yesterday in qualifying when he made a mistake at turn 2 and still managed to recover to take pole position. Is today going to be the story of a recovery from a pit stop fire still to win the Grand Prix? Not if Kimi Raikkonen's got anything to do with it. He's faster on that last lap by almost a second than Michael Schumacher, and is now within 2 seconds of the race leader. There's the scrap between Jenson Button, who's having a tremendous afternoon in the BAR, and Rubens Barrichello in the second Ferrari.
Rubens is just about close enough to have a bit of a desperate dive somewhere. Be surprised if he does, but he did, and really an easy pass by the looks of it. We only caught the tail end of it, but he did take that dive and he did make it stick. I'd like to see a replay of that one.
And who's on the tail of them? Fernando Alonso. There he is in the Renault. Started from the back of the field, in fact started from the pit lane. He of course benefited from the safety cars which came out twice in this Grand Prix. The Renault team took advantage of the opportunity to fuel Alonso's car, obviously for a one-stop strategy, and he's going deep into this Grand Prix. Here's a replay of that pass.
Michael Schumacher lapping in the 8s, and Rubens, it was brave and it was late, and really he relied totally on Jenson saying, okay, I think I'll yield this one to you. And Rubens looking across there, I don't know what he was thinking, but it was kind of, well, it was sensible driving from Jenson, but a bit easy there, I think, for Rubens. Rubens would be well pleased to make that one stick. And Alonso then, still not having stopped, lapping very well in the 1:10s. Alonso is flying, and considering how much fuel he had on board, James.
Yes, he's yet to make a pit stop, Fernando Alonso. He's the only car out there who has not made a stop. And so Renault obviously putting as much petrol in that car as it could possibly hold at the beginning, starting from the pit lane. He's done a superb job to get this far, and bearing in mind that all the cars in front of him have to make one more stop as well, he's looking pretty good this afternoon.
Indeed he is. Montoya's out then. Panis, Montoya engine, Panis, some technical problem. Frentzen never started. Verstappen only got to the end of the first straight. I think he's soon going to be joined by Heidfeld, who's had a misfire and has been lapping slowly, just picked up speed again now. But Heidfeld is struggling and falling down the field. That's let Villeneuve and Coulthard up into 7th and 8th. Michael Schumacher now 1.4 seconds faster than Raikkonen, absolutely flying in the 1:08. That's probably a new lap record. It is a new lap record. Last year it was 1:09.2. So Michael Schumacher, in a car we know did not take on its full quota of fuel, has blitzed the lap record and trying to make the difference.
He's trying to make up for what he lost in that pit stop fire. You can still see little bits of fire extinguisher on the bodywork of that Ferrari. Can he recover from here to win this Grand Prix? Well, Raikkonen's 4 seconds behind him at the moment, and we know that Michael Schumacher's going to have to make a stop. We heard Sam Michael from Williams say lap 41, which is several laps earlier than we expect Kimi Raikkonen to come in, and that will be where Raikkonen has to do some work. Will the Ferrari refueling hose work when he makes his next stop? Well, judging by the fact that they're not working down there anymore on that system, you have to presume that Ferrari are comfortable that it will work next time.
Yes, one of that big pack of cars there is sick. I just heard them go past the commentary box. Well, something near the front of it is not running well. We'll have to wait and see what it is. This is a pass. This is Coulthard passing Heidfeld. That was then for 8th and still is for 8th place. Heidfeld, as I said to you, has been misfiring. I don't believe that was the car I heard that was sick. Alonso finally pits then from 5th position. It's a 69-lap race now, remember, with those 2 restarts. We're on lap 38 at the moment, and a relatively straightforward pass for the McLaren driver.
There's Alonso then taking on the fuel that will get him to the finish.
Used fronts, brand new rears. Seems to be the way to get them. And another refueling rig looking a bit reluctant to let go of its Formula One car. And away he goes then. And at the moment, he's looking pretty handy.
As he has all season, 3 times on the podium, a pole position in Malaysia. And these are heady days for 21-year-old Fernando Alonso. He was running 5th, which is solidly in the points. And who knows where he will be at the end of this afternoon. Michael Schumacher leading. Again, a new fastest lap for him, 108.577. And that's faster than a lot of people managed in Friday qualifying on low fuel runs. He really is extending himself.
Barrichello has passed Button then, so he's 3rd, Button's 4th now. Schumacher leads by 7 seconds from Raikkonen. Barrichello 16 seconds further behind Raikkonen in the 3rd. Button. Alonso's pitted. Will be interesting to see where he pops out into the system. There is that long train of cars then.
And there's Michael Schumacher at the tail of it. He's got to lap them all and hope that none of them hold him up, because Raikkonen, although is not able to match the pace of Schumacher at the moment, is 7 seconds behind him. But he too will have to get through this train of cars and lap them. And look at this, like a hot knife through butter, isn't it?
See if we can hear which one of them's sick. I suspect it's Heidfeld, the leader of that pack. Furman keeping more experienced teammate Fisichella well in his tracks with the 2. Yeah, it's Heidfeld with a broken exhaust. That's why he's struggling a bit. But Fisichella and Furman right behind him then. Furman driving nicely, but he's about to be lapped by Michael Schumacher.
Well, we haven't seen much of Jarno Trulli. There he is now in the pits. We saw him have a spin earlier on just before his first stop, but he's down as Michael Schumacher laps the Jordan there of Furman. Trulli is down in 13th place. He's made his 2nd stop of the afternoon, but in comparison with teammate Alonso, he's having quite a quiet afternoon once again in that Renault. They've had a tremendous record at the start of this season. Alonso in the points at every Grand Prix. Trulli hasn't had the run of luck, nor have his performances matched up to his younger teammate, and it looks like again today it's the same story. Nice rear-facing view from the back of Fisichella, is it, with Furman further behind the Ferrari? I think it is Fisichella. Yeah, Fisichella in 10th and Furman behind him.
Where Jaguar got it wrong for Mark Webber, looking at the official report, is because the race was aborted those 2 times, they refueled it before the proper formation lap. That's a bit of a grey area, that one. I'll have to think about that one after the race. But clearly you're not allowed to touch the cars if you've elected to start from the pit lane like that, go into the pit lane, start there, until the main formation lap is underway. But what happens if that formation lap then gets aborted later on? I don't know. We'll have to think that one through. That's quite a complex one. Heidfeld then pits and rejoins.
I'm just thinking back to that moment where Montoya's engine blew up and Michael Schumacher took advantage of that split moment. Obviously Raikkonen unsighted and Michael Schumacher dived past. Very reminiscent of what happened in France last year when they were chasing each other and Raikkonen slipped on the oil and Michael slipped through again. It's those moments, isn't it, that sometimes turn a Grand Prix. He's currently got a 6.5-second lead over Raikkonen, but the Ferrari mechanics are out in the pit lane for Michael Schumacher, I believe, although Barrichello pitted first last time, so we'll wait and see. This is lap 41, and Sam Michael of Williams told us exclusively here on ITV1 that he believed Ferrari can only go with Michael as far as lap 41. So let's see which of the 2 cars comes in as we watch Kimi Raikkonen.
So Michael Schumacher goes through and sets another new lap record, so he's not interested in pitting this time around. Is it for Barrichello? There's Michael Schumacher then heading up hill there towards turn 2. It's surprisingly steep, that hill. There's the new lap record you're seeing then. That's only 3/10 shy of last year's pole position. That is a stunning lap time. Barrichello passes us too. So did Michael Schumacher forget to stop?
I don't know, but certainly his first sector is the fastest sector we've seen all day. The only man to go under 17 seconds for a first sector. I think that's the fastest first sector we've seen all weekend. That is a pace that a jet fighter would struggle to match. I've never seen the guy stretch the car so much. Has he got enough fuel to get him to the end of the lap? Let's hope so. This is an incredible drive by Michael Schumacher, trying to make up for lost time in that pit stop, trying to get as much of a lead as he can over Kimi Raikkonen, because his strategy has been compromised, and he is going to come in this time round. The Ferrari mechanics are ready. Watch him jink right. Here he comes then. Max maximising everything. Don't run off the road. Get as fast as you can until you hit the speed limit line, and then hit the speed limiter. And Ted, take it from here.
Oh, this will be the great escape if Michael Schumacher can get away from this. Remember that this is the spare rig. It goes on. Oh, no, it's not going on again. Oh, OK, now it is on. There was a problem getting it on. It all looks OK. The tyres have been changed. They're getting some gubbins out of the radiator. That should be OK. They'll have to refuel it longer. 12.6, success this time.
Yeah, relative success. Quite a slow stop, but they're obviously being cautious.
Well, plus, yes, it was a second or so going in. Plus, of course, they've got to spend more time refueling and how to get it to the end because they didn't get the fuel in last time around. So Schumacher then, I'd have thought that's relatively solid, and the race is still very winnable. He's sitting there calmly, remembering, of course, he is sitting in 4 layers of fireproof clothing, fireproof boots, gloves, fireproof helmet. So it's probably not quite as scary sitting in there unless it gets ever so hot.
And the good news for him is that the moment at which he was stopping was the moment at which Kimi Raikkonen encountered 3 back markers. So if you can't be born good, be born lucky, and Michael Schumacher is both. There's Rubens Barrichello just struggling a little bit, it looks like, with his car, and this race is very winnable for Michael Schumacher now. He dropped ideally about 3 or 4 seconds compared to how much time he would like that pit stop to have taken, but he did have a 7-second margin over Raikkonen, who must now, in these next few laps he's got with a light car, really push this car now. This is where Raikkonen can win the race if he's going to this afternoon, in these next few laps, as Furman makes a stop.
Yes. Notwithstanding reliability issues, it really is now a straight fight between the current World Championship leader Kimi Raikkonen and the reigning world champion Michael Schumacher this afternoon, and they've both got it all to play for. If Raikkonen has a good few laps now and a good stop, he still can win the race, but Michael is looking very strong. If he can start pulling 1:08 out of the bag as well, Michael Schumacher surely can go on to win this race.
Indeed. Well, Raikkonen is responding. He's not set his fastest first sector yet, but it's a very competitive first sector time. We don't know how much more fuel he had in his car as Ralf Schumacher exits the pits in what was 5th place. He'll have dropped, I think, possibly behind Villeneuve as a result of that, down to 6th place. But we don't know how much longer Raikkonen can stay out than Michael Schumacher, but we believe it's quite a few laps, and these will be the decisive laps of the race.
Yes, curiously, we saw Montoya really up front, and Ralf Schumacher, we just haven't seen too much of him this afternoon for whatever reason. Ralf seems to be a bit of a knife-edge setup on that Williams. Ralf really not dialed in. Montoya really looking plenty strong enough there, wasn't he? And here we have a Jordan fending off something. Didn't really get too good a view of what was going on there. It was a Jaguar of Webber, wasn't it? And having a good ding-dong battle then down there in 9th and 10th place.
Yeah, Pitsonia and Fisichella it is. The battle for 9th and 10th. Webber is in 11th, just behind them as well, having started from the pit lane this afternoon. Raikkonen sets a personal best lap on that last lap, a 1:09.664, just 0.2 of a second faster than Michael Schumacher, who's got fuel to go to the finish. So that gives you a bit of an idea of how hard Schumacher's pushing this afternoon. Raikkonen needs to find more if he's going to win it. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, James. Michael Schumacher's got the speed, he's now got the fuel. Assuming he's got the reliability, really, I don't know if Raikkonen can counter that kind of pace that Michael Schumacher's capable of. Jenson Button in 4th still, now with Villeneuve 5th, Coulthard 6th. Can Button get his first ever podium position? At the moment, he's tantalisingly close, and there is a Renault spun off at the top of the hill. Which one is it?
Oh, I think it might be Alonso. It is. Isn't it? I was just about to say that with Ralf Schumacher, with Coulthard, Villeneuve in front of him, and Button all having to pit again, this could be a very good day for Fernando Alonso, who started from the back of the grid, because he looked as though he might even get 5th place. There's one of the Ferraris running wide, Michael Schumacher.
There's oil on the track, something on the track. Look, they're all struggling, so I would either we think Heidfeld may have blown up, or of course the Renault may have spun on its own oil. That does happen if the engine seizes up. You do tend to spin in your own oil, or certainly with your rear. And look, there's a trail of fluid coming from underneath that Renault, so possibly then a broken engine pitching Alonso off the racetrack and giving everybody else still running, which is 15 of them, a big fright.
Well, We saw Flavio Briatore, the Renault team principal there, walking off into the garage as if his interest in the afternoon has gone. He does still have a car out there, Jarno Trulli, but he's down in 12th place, and Flav doesn't really do 12th, does he?
It's not his speciality. Not when he thought he was in for a good run this afternoon. Alonso was doing a sterling job, no doubt about that, and would have been fascinating to see where he ended up. That's a great shame for this afternoon's Grand Prix. And there is a Ferrari. We cut away to see a little bit of engine blood on the racetrack from the Renault.
Look at the curve it made to where it finished, that splodge there. Probably indicates it was fluids coming from the Renault which caused it to spin itself. As Fisichella pits, winner in Brazil, round 3 of the championship. Doesn't look like he's going to score any points this afternoon as things stand. He's down in 10th place, but Mark Webber is having a strong afternoon. He's right on the tail of his Jaguar teammate Pitsonia. Pitsonia's in the points at the moment in 8th place. Just a quick rundown then on lap 47. Raikkonen leading, Barrichello 11.5 behind. 20 seconds behind the race leader is Michael Schumacher, and Raikkonen needs about 23 seconds to pit and rejoin in front of Michael Schumacher. He's not got enough yet. Button 4th, 5th Villeneuve, 6th Coulthard, here he is, we ride with him. 7th Ralf Schumacher, 8th Pitsonia. Those are the points positions as Villeneuve possibly just making a little mistake there in front of Coulthard.
I think it's just that concertina effect you get in a braking zone, and then you get the opposite effect on the exit. Raikkonen still leading then, yet to stop. He was 11.6 ahead of Barrichello. He's got the measure of Barrichello because Barrichello too has to stop again. Button is pitting from 4th place. The only really close fight on the racetrack at the moment is that Villeneuve-Coulthard fight, and they've both got to stop again too. Ralf Schumacher's not too far away, and he stopped for the 2nd time, so Schumacher's looking on for a few points for Williams this afternoon too. Button then pits. Time ticking away, fuel still going in. It's quite a long stop. Yeah, quite a long stop. Not too bad, not a disaster, but a second or two less than that would have gone down well.
But interestingly, he had almost half a minute on his teammate Villeneuve, so Button has had a really strong afternoon here, hasn't he? I mean, that's to take almost half a minute out of a guy driving the same car as you, albeit that Villeneuve came from quite a long way back on the grid. Nevertheless, you can see the yellow and red oil flags indicating the oil that Alonso spun on. And Raikkonen pushing. His last lap, a 1:10.125, but the bad news for him is that both Ferraris are in the 9s. And Sam Michael is joining us again from the pit wall.
Sam, any news on the problems for Montoya?
Unfortunately, we had an engine failure, Martin. We lost a lot of water pressure, so it's most likely an internal problem, but we'll have to have a look at it after the race. Okay, very disappointing because he was running very strong, had a lot of fuel on board to run at the end.
Could you have won the race?
Yeah, he was definitely in a good position to win the race. He only needed 3.5 seconds over Raikkonen, and he had 4.5 when he went out.
Ralf Schumacher then, he's 7th at the moment. Presumably that's his 2nd and final stop he's taken.
Yeah, he's finished, so in the moment he's in P5 because Villeneuve and Coulthard have to stop again. So he's about 5 seconds behind Button at the moment.
Okay, so a 4th or a 5th then is on. We're just watching Ralf running wide down at turn 1. Is he talking about the oil down there?
Yeah, he had a problem on the lap before. That's why he dropped 3 seconds. And he's obviously going to come out 7 or 8 seconds behind Button. But he should climb back up into 5th place, and then he's just got to try and take Button until the end.
Thank you, Sam.
Okay, cheers, man.
Race leader Kimi Raikkonen comes into the pits. This is the decisive moment of the Grand Prix. How fast can the McLaren guys turn him around? Answer, reasonably fast, but I don't think it's going to be enough. I think Michael Schumacher is going to take the lead of the Grand Prix. He goes through to start a next lap. That's Rubens Barrichello, I think, on the racetrack. Yes, it is Rubens Barrichello. He was in 2nd place behind Raikkonen. Michael Schumacher was 3rd. So
Barrichello leads then temporarily before his next stop and final stop. It's Barrichello was down to 7.5 seconds behind. If he can find the sort of pace Michael Schumacher's had, he can still frighten Raikkonen. But Raikkonen should come out in a clear 2nd position. Heidfeld then, after having a very misfiring car, finally has exited this Grand Prix. There's 14 runners then, 6 retirees, and Villeneuve pits. And this is a close call for Villeneuve. He's really in a nip and tuck with Coulthard for what I think will be 6th and 7th at the moment. And it goes then, and he stalled it. No, he dropped the clutch and he stalled it. Barrichello then, the race leader, pits, and you kind of hold your breath now when they head towards a Ferrari with a fuel hose.
Indeed you do. Michael Schumacher goes through underneath us. He leads the Grand Prix again. He has recovered. He has got himself in front of Kimi Raikkonen, who crosses the line now, and Rubens Barrichello will slot back into third place, and the great escape is on as far as Michael Schumacher is concerned. Kimi Raikkonen could not respond to him in those laps, and Torno, what a picture of heartbreak. Take a look at this guy. Jacques Villeneuve was running fifth, on for some solid points. Doesn't look like he's going to get anything this afternoon, but it's not over yet.
Certainly is indeed. 8.2 seconds then, and still lapping much faster than Kimi Raikkonen. Michael Schumacher with this race now comfortably in his pocket. Enough fuel comfortably in his tank. D'Amata, he's had a dramatic afternoon, hasn't he? 2 failed getaways, and running down in 11th place. Not particularly fast either, so another bad day for Toyota.
Cristiano D'Amata, as he will be known after today. 2 aborted starts. There's this pack. You can see the 2 Jordans have been pretty much together all afternoon, haven't they? Which says a lot for Ralph Furman. He's been living with the pace of his illustrious teammate, Giancarlo Fisichella. Lap 53 in Austria. James Allen and Martin Brundle with you. That's Ove Anderson, the boss of the Toyota team. He has only 1 representative left in this race, Cristiano D'Amata. There he is in 11th place. He was the guy that caused the 2 aborted starts at the beginning of this Grand Prix, which got it off to rather a stuttering beginning. But since then, we've had a really full-blooded Grand Prix here this afternoon. Michael Schumacher, Kimi Raikkonen and Juan Montoya have kept us royally entertained. Montoya looked to have the race won, but his engine blew up. Michael Schumacher was leading when he had a pit fire in a refueling stop, which looked to have cost him the race, but he managed to get back out again, and somehow or other he has conjured up lap times you can only dream of around this racetrack, and he has got himself back into the lead of the Grand Prix, ahead of Kimi Raikkonen, who trails him now by 9 seconds. Rubens Barrichello in the 2nd Ferrari is 3rd. Jenson Button is having a wonderful afternoon for British American Racing in 4th. 5th, Ralph Schumacher for Williams. 6th, David Coulthard, who started 14th on the grid. 7th, also in a points-paying position, the Jaguar of Mark Webber, who started from the pit lane this afternoon. And recovering nicely from some difficult times earlier on is Jarno Trulli, also in the points in 8th place.
Jenson Button's got a 20-second deficit to Barrichello if he wants a podium place. I think we could see Ralph Schumacher, Coulthard, Webber, 5, 6, 7. That's our only chance, I think, of a good fight now in the Grand Prix. I cannot believe Raikkonen's got enough pace to move up to the back of Michael Schumacher unless he has any kind of problem, and he certainly doesn't have enough straight line speed to overtake him. So Schumi looking pretty handy. Raikkonen 2nd, you say. Barrichello comfortable if undramatic 3rd. Button slipping back in 4th. Ralph solid 5th. Coulthard, not good pace this afternoon for whatever reason, 6th, and Webber homing in very quickly then onto the back of 6th place man David Coulthard.
Well, Michael Schumacher currently lapping in the mid 1:10 range, which is about the pace that Kimi Raikkonen is doing, with about 15 laps to go, as you can see here in Austria. And Rubens Barrichello going about a second a lap faster because he can. And I think, Martin, just winding back the clock a few laps to that period when Michael Schumacher was trying to make the great escape, putting in laps in a 1:08 range, we were talking in Spain and since about whether or not this new Ferrari really was the real deal, whether it really was a step forward in performance. And it seems that when he needed it, obviously a bit came from himself, but Michael Schumacher found some speed in that car, which I'm sure we'll be talking about for years to come.
He did, but I think it also identifies that if the new McLaren turns up and is very fast, Michael's got some in hand, no doubt about it. And as you said, James, he's now lapping, you're right, more fuel on board, but he's lapping 2 seconds a lap slower. And that's something like the equivalent of 70 kilos of fuel slower. So it's not totally fuel related. It is also to do with the fact that Michael, I wouldn't say sandbagging, but is well within the limits of his Ferrari. Louise is with it, Fernando Alonso.
That's right, Fernando. It looked to us like you'd spun on fluid from your own car. Was that correct?
No, I spun because the rear tires blocked with the engine problem, and was a early finish, unfortunately.
Stunning drive up till then, though.
Yeah, it was a good race, maybe the best one so far for me. I started from the pit lane, and I was really quick and really confident, fighting for the 5th, 6th position, again in the points, so nothing more to say.
Bad luck.
Yep, so it was an engine problem then on the way into turn 1, locking the back wheels, and off you go. Nothing you can do about it.
No, and that is a new updated engine for the Renault team they brought here this weekend. They tested it extensively last week at Paul Ricard in their test session, and they were saying it gave them about 0.3 of a second a lap, so a big step forward in horsepower for the Renault team. And Martin, you often find that big step forwards in horsepower often come with 1 or 2 reliability niggles, and I think that's been the story for Renault and Alonso here this afternoon.
Shame for us, though. I think it took away the excitement in the last few laps, or part of the excitement in the last few laps of the Grand Prix, as has the fact that Webber has just made another pit stop too, so he is no longer going to start threatening Coulthard and Ralf Schumacher in 5th and 6th. Truly then presumably moves up to 7th. So it's pretty much status quo out there right now. The best fight is D'Amato in between those 2 Jordans. Ted.
Martin, you were talking about how Ralf was losing so much time to David Coulthard. He's been on the Williams radio complaining of really bad understeer. The team can't do anything about it, of course. If they had another pit stop, they could put a bit more front wing on. They now just have to hope that he can keep the McLaren behind, although at this rate, I doubt that.
Well, currently, Ralf Schumacher is lapping in the 1:11.3 range, and Coulthard is 0.4 faster than him, as Michael Schumacher continues his inexorable progress through the back markers. Norbert Haug there, the competitions director of Mercedes-Benz, just making some comments on the radio across to the other pit wall of Ron Dennis and the other McLaren management. Their driver, Kimi Raikkonen, is 2nd. Their other driver, David Coulthard, has had a good recovery from 14th on the grid, is currently running 6th. At the moment, this is lap 58, and you can see Villeneuve, who had problems in the pit lane, has a big lockup for Ralf Schumacher there.
And Coulthard is only 4.3 seconds behind, and surely will take over that position. Where's Coulthard?
There.
He goes through. Coulthard passes Ralf Schumacher. He said he had a lot of understeer, and with understeer comes a problem of braking. You need that grip. Your front tyre's got to slow the car down, suspend the car, and turn it into the corners and brake. Not all at the same time, of course, but occasionally at least 2 of those functions. And look, this is what happens. He looks at brake. 60% of your braking energy goes through the front tyres. The weight transfers forward. You rely heavily on that amount of grip at the front, and therefore you don't slow down properly, and that allows Coulthard to sneak through. Villeneuve was not in that for position due to his stalling in the pits.
Well, it's Heinz-Hauer Frenzen's birthday today, but it's David Coulthard who's getting all the presents, certainly courtesy of Ralf Schumacher. And Penny, for his thoughts? Well, this is lap 59. But he wishes he could just go one step better one of these days.
Michael Schumacher's lapped everybody up to 6th place. Ralf Schumacher, such as his speed this afternoon.
Tell you what, Martin, Kimi Raikkonen's got to be a little bit concerned now, because Rubens Barrichello is beginning to get painfully close to him. 3.5 seconds only the margin between Raikkonen in 2nd place and Barrichello in 3rd at the end of the last lap. And Barrichello a good half a second faster than the McLaren on that lap, as we ride on board with 9th place Antonio Pizzonia. This is the fight for the final points-paying position. Jarno Trulli just in front of us in the sole surviving Renault here this afternoon. Nice on-board action, and then you can cut, you see, to the rear-facing shot of Trulli and see what a scrap feels like in a Grand Prix car at around about 140 miles an hour. 10 to go.
And that's for the last World Championship point too. So Trulli and Pizzonia in a great fight there. But as you say, James, all eyes now on Rubens Barrichello, starting to really reel in the McLaren of Kimi Raikkonen.
Yep, took another 0.6 out of him on that lap. The gap is just 3 seconds, and he's got a few laps to go, 10 in fact, to make up the difference. So that's going to be the focus of the final stage of this Grand Prix. Very important from a Ferrari point of view as well. Lap 61 here in Austria, just 9 to go in this extraordinary and eventful Austrian Grand Prix, and the main focus of our attention now is on this emerging battle for second place. Kimi Raikkonen just flashes through the frame there. You could see Rubens Barrichello closing in on him. In the last 2 laps, he's taken a second out of the McLaren driver. Why is this important? As we ride with Pizzonia, who's battling with the car in front, Trulli, for the final points-paying position. It's important because in the championship at the moment, Raikkonen leads Michael Schumacher by 4 points. If they stay as they are, as you can see, the scrap here between these two drivers, Trulli on the inside, Pizzonia on the outside.
And that's for the final World Championship point at the moment. Pizzonia desperately would like to score that this afternoon, and really having quite a good move there under braking. The Jaguar looking very good under braking. Pizzonia surely will get another chance at that. But at the moment, for me, the main story is Barrichello catching Raikkonen in second place.
And as I was saying, if they stay as they are at the moment, Raikkonen will still lead the World Championship, because Michael Schumacher will only have taken 2 points out of him under the new procedures. He gets 10 for a win, 8 for second place, like I was saying on the grid. But if Barrichello can nick that second place, Michael Schumacher will move into the lead of the World Championship because he has more wins. They'll be level on points with Raikkonen and Michael, but Michael will have more wins, so he will lead the championship. And look at this, he's really closing up now, Martin Barrichello is.
Yes, he did a 1 minute 8.9 on the last lap, the gap down to 1.2. Surely Raikkonen doesn't have anything to respond with. If he does, he should have produced it somewhat earlier than this, and that is Ralf Schumacher, who is running sick, being lapped by the leader, Michael Schumacher. Barrichello really on a charge then. We're looking at a Ferrari 1-2 as a real possibility this afternoon. Ferrari will lead the manufacturer's title, and as you say, then I think Michael will be leading the World Championship too if Barrichello passes Kimi Raikkonen. So we've still got some excitement left. I think second place is far from sure, and there it is.
That's the scrap. That's the focus at the end of this Grand Prix. I bet Kimi Raikkonen wishes the checkered flag would come out as one of the two Jordans pulls off the racetrack. Impossible to tell from this angle who that is. Fisichella, the computer's telling us it is indeed. Yes, that's the unmistakable helmet of Giancarlo Fisichella, just withdrawing from the Grand Prix. And here's a replay of what happened to him.
He was 10th at the time and just elected to go up high onto that new apron there at turn 2 and park it, and that releases Furman, who was keeping his, as you said, James, keeping his much more experienced teammate well within his sights this afternoon. But not a spectacular weekend. Not a spectacular weekend for Jordan, and that was a fuel pressure problem there. We're very quickly told, I have to say, very quickly it's got up to the commentary boxes, that one. Well done, our team down there. And Fisichella out of the Grand Prix.
7 to go at the A1-Ring. Can Kimi Raikkonen take a course in defensive driving and hold off the charging Rubens Barrichello? We know how fast this Ferrari is. We've had a graphic demonstration of it this afternoon by Michael Schumacher, who was utterly mesmerising in the middle phase of this race. After he lost ground with a pit stop fire, he's managed to recapture the lead. And can Rubens Barrichello harness the performance of this car and do good things with it? You can overtake here at the A1-Ring. There are places to do it, and Raikkonen is extending himself, isn't he? Pushing as hard as he possibly can, because he knows the significance from a points position.
They're moving into a yellow flag zone, though. No overtaking there, because they're still getting the Jordan of Fisichella out of the way. Raikkonen locks his right front wheel, enabling Barrichello to get very close, but of course he cannot overtake under yellows. But Raikkonen under pressure Barrichello with a very fast car underneath him.
And remember, we have a situation in Formula 1 where it's localised yellow flag, so it's just the area around turn 2 where Barrichello would not be allowed to pass Raikkonen at the moment whilst they're clearing away Fisichella's car. The rest of the circuit is fair game. He can pass him anywhere else he finds an opportunity, but finding it, that's the hard part.
Well, I'm just looking at the computer here, James. There are 4 speed traps around this racetrack that have been in play all through the Grand Prix, and Ferrari are comfortably first and second in all 4 of them. Michael first, Rubens Barrichello second in all 4 of the speed traps. So we know if he gets a bit of a slingshot behind that McLaren, surely Barrichello can go through. Not close enough yet, but he's shaping up nicely.
Both cars sounding pretty healthy, both being driven with great gusto here. What a fantastic grandstand finish to this Grand Prix. A few clouds you can see just floating inconspicuously in the sky. They haven't really threatened this Grand Prix, apart from a brief shower of rain early on, which threw the lap times out a little bit, but didn't really necessitate a move to wet tyres. They have not really threatened us here this afternoon, and look how close Barrichello is now.
Barrichello's got the better car under braking, the faster car in a straight line. Raikkonen's got the better car in traction, and he has a better technique on the exit of turn 1 if that last lap, or this current lap, was anything to go by. So it's really, that's Barrichello's going to have to get better in turn 1, because surely he can outbrake him into turn 2.
So what would you be thinking now if you were Rubens Barrichello?
Well, he's already seen the brake lock-up. He knows he's been homing in at a second a lap. He's now in the dirty air zone. You've got to drive through that and just focus on getting into the slipstream at the right moment. And look, once again then, the McLaren better on the exit of the corner, and that might just save Raikkonen's braking, providing he doesn't make a mistake in the braking zone.
This is all about the psychology of arriving at Monte Carlo in 2 weeks' time at the top of the driver's standings. From Michael Schumacher's point of view, he would love his teammate to pass Raikkonen, because if he doesn't, Raikkonen will come to Monte Carlo, the World Championship leader. And psychologically, Ferrari would love to have that margin. Michael has not led the championship so far this season, and with only a few laps to go now, very interesting to see if he's going to be able to do it. Look at that lovely shot. Fantastic onboard action here at the A1-Ring.
Raikkonen's just got to concentrate so hard in the braking area. That's where he's going to lose it. That's where he's going to make a mistake. And then he's got a chance of maintaining the second place. And again, look, he's quicker on the exit, quicker through the fast section, and then Barrichello drills him into the last braking zone, but can't get close enough to pick up the slipstream.
Been a race full of dramas for the Ferrari team. Barrichello having problems with his refueling rig, but for those, he would be in front of Kimi Raikkonen now anyway. But Ferrari will be asking a lot of questions about the refueling rigs here this weekend after delays for Barrichello and fires for Michael Schumacher. 3 to go. Can he do it?
Yes, I wouldn't want to be working it into technique tomorrow morning. There'll be some fireworks, probably the wrong expression actually. There'll be some action around there while they try to work out what went on with the Ferrari refueling rigs. Having said that, they end up with a 1-2. They can't complain too much, can they? And now Barrichello really is in the slipstream, and Raikkonen has to go defensive. Takes a good line. Can he keep it tight on the exit, or will Barrichello get a slingshot? Raikkonen still has the racing line into the ladder curve. How far ahead of him is Barrichello? Not far enough is the answer. Raikkonen then placed his car nicely. Barrichello has the faster car. Raikkonen has the wider one.
And he had the track position where it mattered. He kept the inside line into the left-hander, and Barrichello just couldn't go around the outside. So, round 1 in possibly what will be an interesting slugfest in these final 2 laps then of this Grand Prix. Where else can Rubens Barrichello think about having a go? This is his best chance, really, given the straight line speed of the Ferrari, but he's not close enough.
And Ralf Schumacher's going to come into play anytime soon too. He's lapping a couple of seconds off the pace, so into the last lap. Ralf Schumacher's going to be in there somewhere. He's being lapped. But 2 laps to go then. Michael Schumacher 8.6 seconds clear of this battle that is homing in to lap Ralf Schumacher, and usually it's the second place man that benefits from something like that. So Barrichello positioned nicely. Raikkonen can use the slipstream. No, he doesn't have to. Unfortunately for him, Ralf pulled clean out of the way. Raikkonen snatches a break. Can he keep it on the island? Yes, he can. And Rubens then running out of opportunities, James.
He is. At the end of this lap, he'll have only 1 more lap to go. This really has got everybody standing up in the grandstands around here. Kimi Raikkonen, well, he learned an awful lot about not making mistakes and throwing away leads at the French Grand Prix last year when he made a little bit of a slip and Michael Schumacher got him. He was kicking himself after that race, and he's been kicking himself ever since, and he's not going to let it happen to him again. There you can see that moment just before when Rubens got right alongside him.
Yes, that's a replay, of course, out of turn 3 into 4, the Lauda curve, and it's just because Kimi really had the racing line. Nothing Rubens could do about that. Well positioned, good driving from the pair of them, has to be said.
I once saw Nigel Mansell go around the outside of Gerhard Berger in a corner a bit like that, but clearly Rubens' discretion the better part of valour. This is the last lap then. Michael Schumacher looks as though he's going to win the Grand Prix. He disappears over the horizon. Has Rubens Barrichello got something left?
He's too far behind, isn't he? Too far behind to have a go. He'll end up running into him if he tried to outbrake him from there. And I don't think there's any opportunity now then. So Raikkonen looking solid for second place. Michael Schumacher's going to win the race. He's 7.2 seconds along the road. There he is.
A little puff of smoke there, but I think it was dust. Been brought onto the track by one of the cars. Yeah, it doesn't seem as though there's any problems with this car. Anyway, it's all downhill for Michael Schumacher from here. Literally, he can coast to the finish, and he goes through to win an incredible Grand Prix in Austria. And the great escape has come true for Michael Schumacher. Kimi Raikkonen finishes second and maintains his World Championship lead. Rubens Barrichello could do nothing about him in third place. And what a story here this afternoon. Terrific driving by this guy, Kimi Raikkonen. He didn't have the fastest car, but he managed to hold on. Well, I have to toss a really difficult question at you now, Martin. Alonso, a hero from the back of the grid. Button finishing 4th, Coulthard 5th, Ralf Schumacher 6th, Webber 7th and 8th, truly the points-paying positions. Michael Schumacher's extraordinary escape from that problem. Raikkonen's defensive driving. Who's the driver of the day?
It's got to be Michael Schumacher. Just that image of him sitting in the pit lane, totally calm while everybody was running around, his car's on fire, just wiped his visor, got on with it and won the Grand Prix. Michael Schumacher really pulling out. He's got the best car on the track, of course, but he put it to very, very good use this afternoon.
He certainly did. That middle phase of the race when he was trying to make his recovery, some of the most dramatic lapping we've seen for a long time. But let's not forget Jenson Button either. A storming drive from him in 4th place, and hopefully we'll hear from him after the Grand Prix. Well, stick around, the podium's in just a moment.
An amazing race, and how much does that Ferrari have in hand? That's the question after 20-second pit stops from both Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello. They are still able to outpace particularly the McLaren of Kimi Raikkonen in those closing laps. Great drive from Jenson Button. VAR creeping onto the map here in Formula One after a slow start to the season. Coulthard giving McLaren a pretty handy day with 2nd and 5th overall as we look at that classification at the end of the race. And Mark Webber driving into the points again. Don't forget, he was really on a 3-stopper today, given that he had the 10-second stop-go penalty. And on top of his 2 regular stops, which weren't too shabby in the end, Neil Crompton. So well, Mark made the most out of a tough situation.
You're right about that. When you consider that it's not just 10 seconds either, Bill, it's the getting in and getting out process. So, and we know that to be 25 to 30 seconds plus 10 for the penalty. And as Martin suggested earlier, some grey areas surrounding just precisely why that was enforced, and no doubt that'll be fully explained in the aftermath. But extraordinary get-out-of-jail performance by Ferrari, and Michael, you would have thought they were gone for all money in the middle sector of the race when that fire took hold. And
almost everyone on a 2-stopper in the end.
Yes, which was pretty much the suggestion when you looked at the times they did in qualifying on Friday versus the times they did on Saturday. Is the Drivers' Championship, and it's still a margin in favour of Kimi Raikkonen by 2. Rubens up to 3rd there with 26. Alonso not scoring today, and it's the first time today that he's not scored points this season. He's been in the points at 100% scoring record, and we thought that may have been in jeopardy based on starting from the pit lane. And what about that start, or the series of delayed starts? And then when they did get away, because Verstappen was just so slow off the line with the problem that he described with launch control, they couldn't release either Webber or Alonso from pit lane until he'd gone by. They were miles behind when they finally started to race.
A race full of incidents. We'll just have a quick look. What a constructors' battle now. Ferrari taking control by just the 1 point over McLaren. And don't forget McLaren's 2003 car still to come out of the stable. Massive gap to the next team. But gee, that McLaren car is going to have to be good because the Ferrari car is exceptional. No doubt it was an excellent drive from Michael. He produced the composure when it was needed, but that car, Neil, is extremely good. And once again, Rubens, things just didn't quite go right for him.
No, well, the problems that they had with the pit stop, you know, which was a huge drama, and how he actually got out of that is something of a miracle. But it was interesting because a lot of people seem to be struggling with these apparatus made by Intertechnique. I had a close look at one at Melbourne at the Grand Prix, and I was staggered by how heavy it is built. When the fuel's in the hose, it's 35 kilos, and the angle of approach and departure with the nozzle is critical to being able to fit them on and off because the tolerances are so tight in the nozzle with the dry brake fitting. And it is genuinely a dry brake fitting, far more so even than a V8 supercar that we have here, but it makes them extremely finicky. But a tremendous performance by Michael. Delayed also in his second stop when the hose went on very slowly. In that second stop they put a lot of fuel on, but it was just on 12 seconds, so he didn't get fuel for that whole period because there was a pause there at the beginning and at the end, just disconnecting, but I guess they wanted to make sure. One of the other things that's awkward about that
Once again, a superb team effort. I don't know, Neil, I mean, Michael's happy after all his wins, but this one just looks a little bit more satisfying than the other two we've seen this season.
Well, this is, you know, very, very strong performance, and to stay calm in that set of circumstances is pretty remarkable. And he cruises or works hard, depending on your viewpoint, here to 67th Grand Prix win. He set a fastest lap along the way of 1 minute 8.3 seconds. So his fastest lap tally jumps to 54. And of course, yesterday he grabbed another pole. That tally jumps to 54. So the records just continue to tumble for Michael. And but you know, it was a great drive. He pushed very hard. A lovely little bit of aggro right at the start of the race in one of those restarts with Montoya, where Michael wanted to slow things down and regulate the pace. And clearly JPM was not happy about that.
And that is a battle that is sometimes verbal as well.
Interesting also, just looking at tyre stats here, Billy, Bridgestone 5 poles now and 4 wins, Michelin 1 pole and 2 wins. So by virtue of the strength of Michael, with his 3rd win on the trot now and the string of fastest laps, and ooh, good catch. You know, the strength of Michael and the strength of Ferrari is just carrying Bridgestone along here. But if you look